Good evening and welcome to Sunset News this Friday evening. As always, we bring you news, community stories, economics, weather, and sports. I am Glenora Shipura. In the news tonight, Mines Minister Tom Alwindo says Namibia should be allowed to develop its lithium resources locally, despite suggestions that it could be contravening World Trade Organization's Convention on Trade. London-based lawyer Peter Leon warned that Namibia was not upholding international trade laws with its recent decision to ban lithium ore exports. It follows a cabinet decision taken in June related to the prohibition of the export of certain critical minerals such as unprocessed crushed lithium ore, cobalt, manganese, graphite, and rare earth minerals. Leon cautioned that Namibia was playing with fire as this is against the fundamental principles of international trade law. Alwindo shot back, saying Namibia was not violating any trade rules. According to him, they don't believe that their decision violates any of the WTO rules. He added that it is tiring to be accused of resource nationalization whenever developing countries adopt policies meant to improve the livelihoods of their citizens. Alwindo continued saying that there's everything wrong with the idea that Africa must continue to export its raw materials to developed countries while in the process disadvantaging itself. Now, in our next story, the campaign to discourage Namibians from eating dog meat has now gone national, with billboards set to be erected all over the country. This follows the recent slaughter of a Weimaraner in Rehoboth called Delton that had animal lovers all over the country distraught. Sunde Clerk, a lawyer representing animal rights group Justice for Animals, said billboards are being strategically placed to discourage the consumption of dog meat. Their billboards have been strategically placed in various locations to reach as many people as possible. So far, they have erected them in Windhoek, Oshakati, Otavi, and Ondangwa. This is just the beginning, and we aim to cover more areas as the campaign progresses. Digital billboards in the shopping centers at the coast will be seen soon. Now, the Ministry of Health and Social Services received multimedia equipment worth $500,000 from the Center for Disease Control America that will aid in the recording and sharing of content created by the ministry. During her keynote address on behalf of Executive Director Ben Nangombe, Deputy Executive Director Taimi Amambo said a gift of this nature is invaluable to the success of the ministry. This momentous occasion marks a significant milestone in their journey towards improving public health communication. The media equipment they receive serves as a catalyst for innovation, collaboration, and positive change. Now, in our next story, Kavango East Governor Bonifacius Wakadumo, during his State of the Region address, highlighted the issue of lack of potable water in the region, saying many lives are being lost due to crocodile and hippopotamus attacks as people have to rely on the Kavango River for water provision. This video is by Kenya Kambowe.
The entire Kavango region is another area that the region needs to be implemented as a matter of urgency to reduce the incidence of crocodile and hippopotamus attack. We propose that the construction of the proposed pipeline between Rundu and Ibundu should be expedited by the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform. Communication network is one of the key areas that the region is lagging behind, especially in the inland, small-scale farming area and Ibundu Village Council. We are hard at work to convince responsible entities to their urgent consideration. Fellow Namibians, in conclusion, I would like to leave you with the following regional motto, I quote: let's strive to revival of the regional economy through agricultural initiatives. We have the Kavango River. We have the fertile soil. We have the conducive climate environment. We only have ourselves to make it shine. I repeat, we only collectively have ourselves to make it shine. God bless Kavango's region. God bless Namibia. And I thank you.
The Executive Director for the Ministry of Industrialization and Trade, Sikongo Hayambu, said during the annual meeting of Team Namibia that the confidence in Namibian products needs to be improved. He also explained that Namibia must fully leverage its free trade agreement with other African countries. Intra-Africa trade is recorded at 17% compared to up to 60% in other continents, he said.
With great pleasure, having been invited to this occasion of great importance in your calendar, referred to as the Annual General Meeting AGM, being held under the theme Collaboration, a Local Chain to Drive Namibianism. Allow me further to, on the onset, commend Team Namibia for the great efforts in organizing this event. We are today celebrating and promoting the consumption of Namibian products and services both domestically and internationally, while promoting standards, instilling consumer confidence, which will enhance investment attraction and trade promotion.
Next up, we'll take a look at what made headlines this week in sub-Saharan Africa. Reuters has more.
Here's what's been making the business headlines in sub-Saharan Africa this week. Democratic Republic of Congo and South Africa have vowed to revive Congo's giant Inga 3 hydroelectric project as Pretoria looks for a solution to its crippling power crisis. The $14 billion scheme, harnessing the power of the Congo River, has been repeatedly delayed by red tape and disagreement between Congo and its partners. Also in DRC, state-owned Gécamines said on Thursday that it aims to produce 30 metric tons of germanium per year. That's after China announced export curbs on Monday on some gallium and germanium products, causing concern among companies in the semiconductor and defense industries. Gécamines chairman Guy Robert Lukama said some germanium could come to the market in October from a plant that is nearing completion. Tech industry metals have also been in focus in Zimbabwe, where China's Zhejiang Huayu Cobalt has commissioned a $300 million lithium plant. It will produce 450,000 metric tons of lithium concentrates a year. Economically struggling Zimbabwe is trying to consolidate its position as one of the world's top battery metals producers.
Mes chers compatriotes,
Senegal's President Macky Sall is seeking to lure more foreign capital to his country with promises that difficult and repressive customs and tax rules would be reformed. Plans include, he said, the digitization of trade and investment protocols, better protections for investor rights, and tax breaks. And finally, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has ordered the suspension of a newly introduced 10% tax on single-use plastics. Nigeria is one of the biggest plastic polluters on the continent, contributing some 2.5 million metric tons of plastic waste annually, according to official data, some of which ends up in the sea. But Tinubu's spokesman said the tax introduced in March was being reversed to reduce costs for businesses and households.
In our Story of the Day segment, we take a look at the Indaba X hosted by NAST. All this on the other side of the break.
Ranging from current affairs, community stories, local index remains unchanged while overall index.
Thank you for joining the show that highlights the news making headlines in the land of the brave and beyond.
always major victorious.
Artificial intelligence and machine learning can assist in addressing a number of dilemmas and help to revolutionize the field of transportation. During the Indaba X hosted by NAST, Dr. Robert Ambunda from the UNAM Transport and Mobility Research Lab shed some light on the application of AI and machine learning ML techniques in the field of transportation. Let's take a look.
So when we talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning, we specifically ask ourselves, what are we talking about? Perhaps in less technical terms, we can explain AI as a bigger concept to create intelligent machines that can stimulate or simulate human thinking capabilities and behaviors, whereas machine learning is an application or a subset of AI that allows machines to learn from the data that it has been fed without being programmed explicitly. So at the present time, AI methods can be divided into two broad categories, which are symbolic AI, which focuses mainly on the development of knowledge-based systems, and computational intelligence, which includes such methods as neural networks, fuzzy systems, and in many cases, evolutionary computing as well. So why are these paradigms ideal for solving transportation dilemmas? Transportation in itself and the problems that exist within that space exhibits a number of characteristics that make them amenable to solutions, especially using AI techniques. Firstly, transportation challenges often involve both quantitative as well as qualitative data. And the fact that we often have to deal with qualitative data in transportation makes the use of experts in fuzzy systems an obvious choice to apply within that space. Secondly, within transportation, we often deal with systems whose behavior is very hard to model with traditional approaches, either because the interaction among the different system components are not fully understood, or because one is dealing with a lot of uncertainty stemming from the human component of the system. So for such complex systems, building empirical models based on observed data may be the only option remaining. So neural networks, given their universal function around approximation capabilities, are quite perfect tools for building such models.
After the break, we'll take a look at a recent talk hosted by the Scientific Society of Namibia. Stay tuned.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
One of the many exceptional things about the new Tsau Kaip Spiergebied National Park is its plant diversity. Dr. Anje Burke had a talk at the Scientific Society earlier this week.
Do they have a chance in the face of multiple threats? I think you've all heard there's a lot of development proposed and going on at the moment. And the plants are one of the things that we have to worry about. So maybe just quickly a recap for what is an endemic. This is in essence an animal or plant that is restricted to a particular area. So these are the areas where there's a lot of them, but they are in essence everywhere if you look closely. I think we can all agree that this is obviously it's an arid area, and there is a lot of special habitats in here which are unique, and that makes the area fairly fragile. So it's something that one has to look out for. A lot of those habitats and the vegetation in those habitats is not restorable. You can't restore outcrops, you can't restore lichen fields and things like that. So these would be lost completely if they are disturbed.
In economic news, the question that needs to be answered is, can Africa pursue economic development without relying on fossil fuels? We tackle this on the other side of the break.
This is Africa. Good morning.
My name is Aina Raizakaya alongside Diana Master.
In the ANC conference in December. So starting off with the cycling.
Africa, good morning. Do have a lovely...
Minister Monica Mchangwa has said that
with the soccer, the English Premier League continued, the biggest game being...
On that note, it is all our love, all our light.
Now, as the global climate emergency intensifies, the question arises, can Africa pursue economic development without relying on fossil fuels? While many African countries heavily depend on oil and gas exports, the continent experiences the harshest impacts of climate change, despite contributing only 3% of global CO2 emissions. The need for decarbonization is evident, with South Africa leading the way after securing $8 billion in loans for its energy transition at COP26. However, power cuts have posed challenges to the country's industrialized economy. According to NJ Ayuk, Director General of the African Chamber of Energies, an effective energy transition requires considering natural gas. African voices must be heard in climate conferences, and African leaders must take action to change the situation. The African Energy Chamber aims to play a pivotal role in fostering an African Energy Pact. Let's take a look at our financial indicators. The Namibian dollar trades against the British pound at 23.66, against the euro at 20.31, against the US dollar at 18.07, and 2 Namibian dollars and 53 cents gets you 1 Chinese yuan. Gold and Brent crude oil went down, with Brent crude oil trading at 2.04%, going for $79 and 92 cents per barrel. In international news, we take a look at German protesters who were forcibly removed after gluing themselves to the streets in 26 cities. All this on the other side of the break.
Welcome to Active Kids, a daily TV show that sparks creativity, learning, and fun for young minds. With exciting activities and lessons, Active Kids inspires curiosity and a love for learning.
New face to the 115.
The perfect mix of play and education. Don't miss out on the fun. Tune into Active Kids on NTV every weekday at 10 o'clock and let the adventure begin.
Getting into our international news, members of the climate activist group Last Generation were blocking streets after gluing themselves to the streets, causing major traffic disruptions. According to the founder of the group, Carla Heinrichs, who dressed up as German Transport Minister Volker Wissing and pretended to be him, he has taken to the streets with his Chancellor Scholz and Germany Minister for Economy and Climate Protection Habeck, also dressed up by a member of the activist group. Now, Heinrich said they want to make it transparent to society that they are breaking the law. As Minister of Transport, Wissing should actually present an immediate climate protection program. They want to educate society that this is not happening, and that's why they took to the streets. According to earlier media reports by DW.com, in April this year, the group did the same. The group wants the German government to take more drastic measures to cut greenhouse emissions, including stopping the use of all fossil fuels by 2030 and imposing an overall speed limit on highways. We'll get into the weather predictions shortly.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Let's take a look at the weather predictions for Namibia. In the northern regions, the weather conditions are clear throughout the day. The maximum temperature ranges from 22.8 to 29.3 degrees. In the central regions, the weather conditions are clear throughout the day. The maximum temperature ranges from 20.1 to 24.9 degrees Celsius. Now in the southern regions, the weather conditions are clear throughout the day. The maximum temperature ranges from 21.2 to 22.7 degrees. And in the coastal regions, the weather conditions are clear throughout the day. The maximum temperature ranges from 17.3 to 24.2 degrees Celsius, while the minimum temperature ranges from 13.1 to 16.1 degrees Celsius. We'll now head over to the sports desk, proudly brought to you by Sports Rep.
Welcome to Active Kids, a daily TV show that sparks creativity, learning, and fun for young minds. With exciting activities and lessons, Active Kids inspires curiosity and a love for learning.
New face to the
15.
The perfect mix of play and education. Don't miss out on the fun. Tune in to Active Kids on NTV every weekday at 10 o'clock and let the adventure begin.
Good evening and welcome to Sport Wrap for Sunset News. Let's get into the story. Former Springbok rugby coach Nick Mallet was the guest of honor at the Chat and Birkie Bowl evening at the Windhoek Country Club on Thursday evening. It was presented by King Price Castle Lager and Republican. Namibia will be hosting its very first official adventure race during the end of May next year. Race directors Heidi and Stefan Muller were in the capital this week to launch the exciting news. They emphasized the economic value of the international teams that are set to visit the country, as well as the global social media following that many of these races generate. And Namibian scrum half Damian Stevens, who was a member of the Rugby World Cup squads to Japan in 2015 and to Japan in 2019, has been one of the foreign-based professionals who joined up with the current national training camp. Stevens told us scrum halves in the Namibian squad are keeping each other on their toes. Those have been our sports stories.
That was your sports news. You're still watching Sunset News. And if you've just joined us, here are your news highlights. Mines Minister Tom Alwindo says Namibia should be allowed to develop its lithium resources locally, despite suggestions that it could be contravening World Trade Organization conventions on trade. London-based lawyer Peter Leon warned that Namibia was not upholding international trade laws with its recent decision to ban lithium ore exports. The campaign to discourage Namibians from eating dog meat has now gone national, with billboards set to be erected all over the country. This follows the recent slaughter of a Waymanor in Rehoboth called Delton that had animal lovers all over the country distraught. Soon de Klerk, a lawyer representing animal rights group Justice for Animals, said billboards are being strategically placed to discourage the consumption of dog meat. The Ministry of Health and Social Services received multimedia equipment worth $500,000 from the Center for Disease Control America that will aid in the recording and sharing of content created by the ministry. And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. Make sure you join Sunset News on Facebook, on all the Animate platforms on weekdays, as well as on our website, oneuptwo.com. Sunset News screens on DSTV channel 285 and GoTV channel 25 every weekday from 7:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. I am Glenora Shipura. This has been Sunset News. Don't end your day without us.